Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Kneon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And this is take 2.
Yes.
So we had a funny thing happen on this video and another video we recorded.
Funny thing happened on the way to YouTube.
A funny thing happened. Yeah, Windows did one of its phenomenal, fantastic updates that I didn't ask for, and it obliterated the mic settings on our recording station. And so I went to go edit the videos and there's no audio. So we have to do the videos over again, but that's okay because I think we kind of rambled last time and we can be a little more focused.
Normal for us.
We can be a little more focused. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Rise of Skywalker because of course we are. Everybody's talking about the Rise of Skywalker and they will continue to talk about the Rise of Skywalker for the next 2, 3, 10, 20 years.
Probably.
Because the trilogy was a cluster, right? Everybody's talking about how the trilogy was a cluster. And even Michael Eisner, former Disney CEO Michael Eisner, is talking about how the movie wasn't that great. So that's kind of funny. And then we're going to talk about a rumor that Disney is trying to get George Lucas back, maybe to help fix things. And fans are complaining about there being a rumored JJ cut of the Rise of Skywalker.
There was Tico cut?
Is this one of the 12? Yeah, we need the Tico cut.
Suppose there's a George Lucas cut too. I mean...
And a Kennedy cut, and a Bob Iger cut, and there's supposed to be like 5 or 6 cuts of this movie.
The fan cut. That would have been the best. Let the fans cut the damn movie. Anyway.
It's sort of like they did with Jar Jar, where they made him a Jedi in the one cut. So we're going to talk about that and whatever the long-term damage might be from the trilogy that's not quite a trilogy. But before we get into that, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We're at 86,000 subs, hoping for 100,000 soon.
Yep.
You guys have been awesome. Happy 2020.
Yes.
We're living in the future now.
Yeah, make sure that you are still subscribed as well because people get unsubscribed for no reason. So there you go.
Oh, God. Okay, so I think the most important thing here is to point out that Michael Eisner, former Disney CEO, Michael Eisner, threw a little shade at the Rise of Skywalker.
He did.
And it sort of went under the radar. Nobody was talking about it in the media outlets. We actually had a couple of people on Twitter send us this link. Thank you for that. And I do apologize. I don't remember exactly who sent. We had a couple people send it. And said that, look, Michael Eisner's throwing shade and he had to backpedal. So here's what Michael Eisner said. He said, Rise of Skywalker is an acceptable film. A lot of story and fan delights, but somewhat emotionless. While The Mandalorian on Disney Plus establishes show creator John Favreau as the new George Lucas, which Bob Iger had the foresight to declare.
I don't remember him saying that, but okay.
I don't remember.
The Mandalorian is much more Star Wars than The Rise of Skywalker. Well, I honestly haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker, but what I know of The Rise of Skywalker, because I pretty much know everything that happens in The Rise of Skywalker, I would say that Mandalorian is greater than Skywalker.
I've seen enough clips of it. I'm not going to say where I've seen them, but I've seen enough clips of it.
I'm going to probably go, but yeah.
Okay, so Michael Eisner also said, and this is what got him in trouble on Twitter, because this is Twitter. Daisy Ridley played Rey throughout the film with one expression, awe and fear, until the very end of the film where she reveals her name.
That she
stole. That's what I mean by a film that somewhat lacked emotion. People were calling him out. They had a gif of a dog digging itself a deeper hole.
Yeah, so people were mad because, you know, the internet seems to not understand this concept, that actors and characters are different things. And then he had to say, I didn't mean to suggest Daisy Ridley acted poorly. The choice of attitude for Rey was intended and seemed to fall on the philosophy of the character. It's hard to read from over here, too. I'm kind of sideways. But, yeah, so... You laughing at me sideways?
Yeah. We haven't been drinking. drinking.
No, the way we sit, he's right in front of the screen. I'm, like, off to the side, so it's really hard for me to read from over here because I probably need glasses. But... so he had to feel like he had to go back and say that Daisy Ridley was great because people took that as Daisy Ridley couldn't act. And, you know, because they cannot seem to understand that actors are not their characters. I don't understand why they can't understand this on Twitter.
Yeah, this guy calling out Michael Eisner. Daisy Ridley played Rey throughout the film with one expression, as opposed to The Mandalorian, a character that hides any facial expression with a mask and speaks in a gruff, monotone voice.
Okay, here's the thing, though. It takes better acting ability to have your face covered and still have expression and still establish emotion than it does to have your face out there the whole time. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the body language of The Mandalorian. Anyway, so it would appear that Michael Eisner, former Disney CEO, who does not deserve as much hate, I think, as people throw at him. And I can talk about that for a couple minutes before we get into this other stuff. But he doesn't seem like he's too impressed with the Disney Star Wars.
No, he likes
sequels.
Mandalorian.
He likes the Mandalorian. This seems to be the consensus, right? So Michael Eisner has some taste. So Michael Eisner, look, a lot of people don't like him because of the cheapquels, the direct-to-DVD.
Well, they were pretty dumb.
Yeah, but let's not forget though that Michael Eisner at least cared about the final product. He cared about the creative process. He was a guy who oversaw Hollywood Studios and oversaw Animal Kingdom, and he oversaw the Disney Renaissance, animation. And
but he's the one that brought it all back.
Yeah, he brought it all back. Well, I mean, obviously the Imagineers and the animators brought it back.
I meant like for the animation, like he's the one that brought it back, went back to doing animated features and things.
Yes, princess movies, and really he was kind of responsible for kickstarting that animated renaissance. Compare this to Bob Iger, who we talked about before, who tends to view everything as being corporate IP.
Right, it's all about the IP and not about the... That's what he calls it, like assets, IP, that kind of stuff.
So it's very fitting they call Baby Yoda an asset.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is to the company. But anyway, Michael Eisner, I do think people throw a lot of shade at him. They should give him a little more credit. He gets the creative end of things, I think, better than Bob Iger. So now you were talking about, we're going to talk about a couple things. One, there's a rumor that there's a J.J. Abrams cut floating around out there for the Rise of Skywalker.
There's supposed to be a George Lucas cut too that we were hearing, but I don't know if that's true.
And we heard a lot of rumors before the Rise of Skywalker came out that there were multiple cuts of the movie, and people said, no, that's impossible. That couldn't happen. Just like those silly leaks from Reddit and from YouTube. All of it's a lie, and it turned out that it was all true, so it's very possible. There are other cuts out there. But you did a story on a rumor that they're courting George Lucas to try to bring him back in.
We got this covered, they said from the same sources they got the Rise of Skywalker leaks from, that all turned out to be true, that they're trying to get George Lucas to come back to Lucasfilm, not as like a director, but more like an executive producer and overseeing and guiding the series with Kevin Feige, as opposed to, Kathleen Kennedy and all the stuff we've got from that. So, that's a rumor, but it wouldn't surprise me they got George back because for The Mandalorian and Rise of Skywalker, it seems he was in and out quite often.
So there might be an actual George Lucas cut out there somewhere.
Right, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me they're trying to, not that he'd necessarily agree to it, but they are probably trying to get him back because at this point, I think it's a matter of the investors are mad, the fans are mad. What is the easiest way to try to smooth some of this over and take Star Wars in a correct direction? Let's bring George Lucas in. Because if we'd listened to him in the first place, it probably wouldn't have all gone to shit.
Yeah, that's what blows my mind. Like, look, I get people are like, oh, well, his take on the sequel trilogy, wasn't that great. But at least it was a cohesive story, because that's the biggest complaint people have right now.
Kathleen Kennedy had it all planned. She knew what she was doing. It's been a plan since the beginning. They're all supposed to be 9 movies that all felt the same, even though the last 3 felt nothing like the originals. But you know what? She said she had a plan. They never lie.
They never lie. Lucas and Disney, they never lie. So this article, we're starting to see a lot of media outlets saying the same things that people on YouTube, on Twitter, other places have been saying about this sequel trilogy for months, years.
Years. We've been saying it for a long time.
That there's no plan. There's no plan. And so this article, I'm going to put links to all these articles in the description. Make sure you check them out. This is Paul Tassi from Forbes. He goes on to say that Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker didn't just fix The Last Jedi, it erased it. And the reason I want to bring this up when talking about George Lucas is George Lucas, his version of the sequel trilogy might have been very different, but at least it would have been a cohesive story.
Because he had it laid out. He had it thought through. He knew where he wanted to go. Like we keep saying, as writers and creators, you know where you know where you're starting, you know where you want to end, and you know the key points along the way. And knowing that, you can go forward. And they clearly did not have any of this figured out at all. Which is
crazy. It's baffling. I mean, to pay $4 billion for the most popular, at the time, the most popular science fiction franchise on the planet, and then not even have a basic roadmap.
I think there's 2 reasons to this. One, they were doing everything by committee.
Yeah,
it feels like it's all done by committee. And 2, they were basically seeing where the social media people went and stuff like that. So they were crafting stories around these people instead of crafting it around the story.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think, and again, this goes back to the YouTube rumors that they were basically looking at social media, that Lucasfilm and Disney were looking at social media and throwing some fake leaks out there to see how they would respond, and they were creating a movie by committee, and
it feels like it.
It does. So that means that there are multiple cuts, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But he even mentions in this article, he said, people have a lot of criticism about the prequels, but at least the prequels had a roadmap.
Right. They had a story and they stuck to it.
It was a beginning, a middle, and an end. It was about Anakin falling to the dark side, the Empire rising to power.
Yeah.
And here he's scathing. He does this article, and he says that in fixing The Last Jedi, J.J. Abrams tried to course correct what he saw as Rian Johnson's wrong turns.
And there was a lot of them.
But now going back to watch Last Jedi again after watching Rise of Skywalker twice, man, it's even worse than I thought. It isn't just that J.J. Abrams spent the entire first hour of Rise of Skywalker fixing The Last Jedi. When you actually view the trilogy as a whole, it's almost not even a trilogy at all anymore. It's a duology, and frankly, it could almost exist with just Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. You wouldn't have to change much to make that happen.
Well, yeah, because the Last Jedi just feels like in a video game, it's like you beat the main game and then you go on the side quests, and that's what it felt like.
It was DLC. And that's what a lot of people were saying. They said that it should have been like a spin-off book or something. Because it really, we've said before, one of our biggest complaints beyond the fact they ruined Luke was the characters are all in exactly the same place they started. There was no progression.
Well, they weren't even because when it started though, Finn suddenly is a coward.
Yeah.
After when they ended the Force Awakens, Finn had stood up to Kylo Ren with a lightsaber and all that, and he had taken a stand and decided he was going to, fight, and we all thought he was going to have a huge arc, same as Rey, until Rian Johnson ruined that. And then Poe did what he had to do and got there, and he was like a hero. And he went from that to being some asshat who doesn't, who's just in love with power and needed, Holdo to put him in his place. So it just for no reason, like there was no explanation as to why this was.
Yeah, it was nuts how it didn't mesh up with The Force Awakens. Now the complaint is it doesn't mesh up with The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker and Force Awakens mesh up though, so there you go.
That's what he's talking about. Yeah, and he said that The Last Jedi basically was obliterated by the Rise of Skywalker.
I don't own it. I'm not going to buy it. So if we do like Rise of Skywalker, we can just step right over it and pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, so there's very little that you have to take out because, Last Jedi didn't add much. I think the problem was they rushed to put out a sequel trilogy. Because they wanted to recoup that $4 billion they spent. They didn't have a roadmap. They
were given one.
They were given one. They tossed it out.
Yeah, like Luke and lightsaber.
And they only spaced the sequel trilogy movies 2 years apart.
Yeah.
And they committed to a trilogy. The smarter thing to do would have been like, we're going to make movies that take place after episodes 1 through 6. If we need an extra movie or we need an extra year or two to make sure the movie's good, then that's what we're going to do.
Right.
And they committed. This is the problem with Hollywood now. They commit to these schedules. Like, we've already got all of our movie slate booked for the next 5 years.
That's how the Marvel ones are. They're out for like years.
And even if the movie is, a problem and they're having all kinds of production problems with it, they still committed to that date because now the investors expect that movie to drop on that date to jack up the stock prices. But, again, Forbes was another one that was saying they should have waited another year.
Yeah, they should have.
And made a better movie. But it's too late now. But we don't know how many cuts of this movie are actually out there.
Yeah.
So apparently people today have been lobbying for the rumored JJ cut.
What's the supposed difference in the JJ cut? Do we know? It had more Leia scenes. So basically it was bringing Rose Tico and Leia back.
And Finn, giving Finn a bigger part.
Oh, good. Give Finn a bigger part. Well, they say Kelly Marie Tran said she actually filmed a bunch of action scenes. They didn't use any of it.
Yeah, so this is interesting. We were calling it the Tico cut. They're calling it the JJ cut. I think it should be called the Tico cut because they cut lots of Tico out of it. All movies have some scenes that don't make it to the theatrical cut, including the Leia scenes. A new rumored scene for Finn has some fans calling for Lucasfilm to release the JJ cut.
So it's about Finn that everybody wants a JJ cut at the end of the day.
Yeah, they said that they basically, I guess they imply much more heavily that he is Force sensitive.
Yeah, they set that up in the first movie. And then they said, oh, it's not true. It is, whatever.
On Reddit, someone claimed that Finn would have used the Force to unlock a door. Another rumor claimed that Finn was trying to tell Rey about his connection to the Force. during one point of the movie.
I heard about that one, yeah.
And they just kind of dropped that ball. They never went back to it.
I would have watched a Finn movie. A Finn trained as a Jedi movie. I would have watched that.
That's how it should have been. That's what they were setting up in the first movie.
And I mean, if Rey hadn't been such a terrible Mary Sue character, I would have been more into watching her. But they made her right from the get-go. They set up to Mary Sue and then it immediately turned me off. Completely.
Yeah.
And I was one calling it before everybody else was calling it.
How very dare you?
I know, right? I'm just all kinds of ists.
But they said that the death scene with Kylo Ren, spoiler, he dies. The death scene was much better, and they just had a very chopped version of it. And apparently, even J.J. Abrams didn't know what was going to be in the theater when it dropped.
Okay.
So it said that Reddit post alleging insider information regarding the Rise of Skywalker. The main point is that Disney reportedly interfered with J.J. Abrams' vision for the blockbuster. And that, goes back to us saying that felt like this whole trilogy felt like it was designed by committee. Mm-hmm. The pressure was on with the House of Mouse allegedly making Episode 9 more neat, including more fan service. One of the most devastating comments is that the theatrical cut wasn't the same movie that the cast and crew shot. So yeah, apparently J.J. Abrams wasn't real happy with what was on screen either. So
I don't even know anymore. There's so many rumors and this and that and finger pointing. I don't even know. All I know is it didn't go the way I thought it would because they had no effing plan. And they got rid of George Lucas and he was willing to work with them and they screwed him over and all this other stuff. And now they're trying to get him to come back. It's a big old mess. I like what he said at the end of the article on Forbes. He was saying about people are going to be talking about this for decades. Because, how not to do a trilogy. Yeah,
and I think that's what's key here. Like, this debate is going to go on for a while. And we've said before, we've made the comparison to New Coke and the Arch Deluxe.
Right.
Because they're still talking, when it's happening, you're like, well, it's not as bad as we think it is. But then you look back and you see how catastrophic they were to their respective companies at the time. And I think that's what's happening with Star Wars. You can trace all of the backlash against Star Wars to poor planning for the sequel trilogy,
right.
Which everything should have gone into this. It should have been the most important thing before the theme parks, before the merchandising, because that's all they could think about was counting that money.
Right.
They really should have made sure they had a solid movies.
Cohesive story. Yeah. And it wouldn't have been hard. You sit down for a couple weeks with the people, because even if you switched directors, you would have had an idea of where it was going. And you could have sat down, here's what we're going in the first movie, second movie, and third movie. Here's what's important. Here's what we can do that makes the fans happy. And then go on from there. And they didn't do it. And like you said about the Arch Deluxe, it's like a restaurant who, is serving, they have a new sandwich they're serving, and they got rid of the other sandwiches to serve this one sandwich, and all the customers hate it. Instead of them saying, oh, maybe we need to tweak the sandwich so that people like it, they're just too busy, well, you get out of my shop, you burgerist, or you racist, misogynist, homophobic, whatever, over a sandwich.
You burgermeister.
But they have, what I'm saying, it doesn't even have to have anything to do with it. You're suddenly labeled some terrible name, whether or not your argument even is remotely related to that. And then they would have lost a whole bunch of customers. And that's what Disney just did. They spent the media, and they let the media and their directors and the internet start this big, huge, hissy fit fight where anybody who didn't like what these people liked were some kind of bad, problematic person, and all you did was turn off your audience. And then you delivered crappy movie, which turned off your audience. And now it's an incohesive mess, which turns off your audience. So it was just dumb.
Yeah, in the sequel trilogy, they needed to stick the landing.
But that could anchored so much.
Yeah, because that's what, everything was based, they based the theme park on the sequel trilogy before they even knew how the whole thing was going to play out. You already had a trilogy that was universally loved in the original trilogy. Yeah,
you could have started with that and changed it to the sequel trilogy later if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They made a misstep there because they're like, oh, we made a lot of money for Force Awakens. And of course you were. People were wanting a new Star Wars movie. They thought they were going to get the original cast back together, and they didn't even get that. So, I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. Had it been done properly, we could have had years and years of Star Wars, and it would have been great. We would have got movies in between. It would have been phenomenal. But no. They dropped the ball, and now it's ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. It's definitely devalued the brand. But when even Michael Eisner is calling out that The Mandalorian is superior to The Rise of Skywalker, to the sequel trilogy.
Mandalorian is superior to the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it is. It is. It actually feels like Star Wars. Sequel trilogy feels like a cash grab, and a poorly conceived cash grab.
Yeah.
At that. That's all they were thinking of. So, anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching CLOWNFISH TV. please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.